morning, everyone. My name is Julie Evans. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Project Tomorrow. I'm so glad to be here to share with you 7 top trends that are hot off the press from our Speak Up research. But first, we're going to start off with a little game. Sound okay? We're not going to call it a quiz. We're going to call it a game. So we're going to play my version of Jeopardy. I'm going to give you a category, and then I'm going to give you the answer, but you're going to actually choose the right answer in the form of a question. Good group. So our category today is Students' Digital Lives. And here is the category answer in just a moment. What you're going to do is that you're going to choose for me, what is the gender of this K-12 student and what grade are they in? So look at the profile I'm going to share with you, which is from our very latest data, and then I'll give you 4 responses to choose from. Sound okay? And we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to raise hands, okay? So here's the profile I'm sharing with you today. This particular student, remember you're going to choose gender and grade, has their own tablet at home, but they use a Chromebook at school. Their #1 complaint about school tech is the internet's too slow. They want to use, they use the internet weekly to help them with schoolwork. They're interested in a job in a STEM field. 6 out of 10 would like to learn how to code. They regularly play online, digital, and video games, and using technology helps them develop critical thinking skills, their words. Do you think this is a 3rd grade girl, a 6th grade boy, a 9th grade girl, or a 12th grade boy? Who thinks it's a 3rd grade girl? Few folks. 6th grade boy? That seems pretty popular. 9th grade girl? A few more. 12th grade boy? A few. So we have a distribution here. Some of you are going to be surprised. This is actually a 3rd grade girl profile. When we start thinking about the digital lives of today's K-12 students, some of our assumptions, some of our conventional wisdom, some of the things that we believe are no longer holding true. And we're seeing, particularly in elementary school, that they are really, our elementary students are the leading edge of our digital innovators, both in terms of their access in school and outside of school. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is research from Speak Up from this past fall. Speak Up is an initiative of my organization, Project Tomorrow. We've been doing this since 2003 and have collected over 5 million surveys from K-12 students, teachers, parents, administrators, and community members. We have the largest collection of authentic feedback data from those stakeholders about what's really happening in schools as well as outside of school using digital tools. This is quite a treasure trove of data to be able to help inform your efforts. Our main goal with this is to get beyond the mythology, get beyond the assumptions or the conventional wisdom that we all carry, and really get to the heart of what's actually happening. So what I'm going to share with you is 7 top trends that are from data that was collected this past fall. As you can see, we had about 435,000 students across the country that completed a Speak Up survey, 38,000 teachers, almost 30,000 parents, and 4,500 administrators and about 5,000 community members. I'm going to give you just a thumbnail of some of these trends. A lot more data is available on our website. So to answer those trends or to address those trends for you, we came up with 7 questions. Now I know in a lot of the sessions I've been to here at the summit, a lot of these questions have come up in discussion, they've come up in panels, they've come up in thought leaders that have shared their perspective. So I'm going to give you some of the evidence to support certain positions associated with this. We'll start off with one of my favorite questions, which is what is waking up school district superintendents in the middle of the night? It's a wonderful statement about their priorities and where they have pain points right now. In 2010, here's the list that superintendents gave us. In 2016, the list has changed slightly, but more important, a greater number of superintendents are saying that funding is a pain point, the achievement gap is waking them up in the middle of the night. Staff morale is a much more serious problem than it was even just 6 years ago. The other one that's interesting on here is that look at teacher recruitment. The idea of getting the very best teachers into our classrooms has doubled in terms of that being an intense topic for today's superintendents. Now, test scores has fallen in priority. That does not mean that superintendents aren't concerned about test scores. It's just not at the same level as some of the other things that are waking them up. We also asked administrators, so what education technology trends are you seeing already in your schools as having a positive result, a positive academic achievement result? So we ask administrators this question, in particular school principals, and here's their list of the things that they're already seeing a strong ROI on in terms of student achievement. Using student data to inform instruction, social media use in terms of communications with parents, online assessments, the growth of cloud-based applications, and even the idea of online professional development for teachers. Now, we took this question one step further and we asked the administrators, in particular in this question, CIOs and CTOs, where do you see the highest growth over the next couple of years? Again, a statement about priorities, a statement about where they're seeing the trends going. These are the top 4 that they gave us. New learning models, blended, competency-based, virtual, flipped, all those. Online professional development. They're already seeing a strong ROI on that. They're seeing even more of that down the road. Open education resources, lots of conversation here about that. And game-based learning environments that provide not only opportunities for engagement, but in many cases are the types of adaptive learning capabilities or have the type of adaptive learning capabilities that yield back that student data to inform instruction. Trend number 3, we asked students as well as teachers, what types of digital content are you using in the classroom? This has been a fascinating question because we've actually been asking this question for several years. So we've got the body of knowledge on that longitudinal trend line in terms of what's happening. So a couple things are interesting here. We've obviously seen large growth in terms of the cloud-based applications, either the G Suite or Office 365. We're also seeing probably our number 1 growth area for teachers is in the use of online videos. What's interesting is that we thought that growth was in online videos being used in the classroom. There's a lot of that. It's actually more about teachers using it to prepare for their own lessons. So it's just-in-time, self-directed professional development. Very interesting trend. We're seeing a little bit of AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality. On next year's survey, we're actually going to be asking more questions about that as we start to see that trend emerging as well. Now, the other thing that we do with digital content, though, is that we asked educators, both teachers and principals, so what is the most important aspects or markers of quality for you in digital content? Whether you're finding things for the classroom, for your school, for your district. The most important things that came up to educators were these. The content is current, it's relevant, it's refreshed all the time. It's always there when I need it. It's aligned to standards. It has a reading level modality aspect to it. The teacher can modify it, and especially important, actually number 1 for principals, it's research-based. It has evidence of achievement tied to it. The ones that are least important to educators surprised us, may surprise some of you as well. Just because something is labeled as OER or an open education resource does not mean that that constitutes quality to an educator. The fact that the expertise of the content developer is not as valuable to the educator also was surprising to us, or that a State Department may be recommending it or not recommending it. Trend number 4, what type of devices are students using in the classroom? We've been tracking this over time too. The growth has been in Chromebooks. Everybody knows that. I know we're all talking about that here. Here's the evidence for you. In 2 years, the number of students that are using Chromebooks in high school and middle school has doubled. It has surpassed the growth in laptops and tablets and has moved that whole conversation to a different level, particularly in terms of using cloud-based applications more in the classroom. We also asked students, so how are you using these mobile devices? It falls into 2 categories. Are they using them on things that are directed by the teacher, sponsored by the teacher, facilitated by the teacher, or are they using it in self-directed learning? So we see several ways that the teachers are directing the use of mobile devices. I think the more interesting part of this conversation is where students are coming up with ways to use these devices to self-organize themselves, to direct their learning, to take control of their learning destiny, and really to be able to make their learning process more efficient. Trend number 5, lots of conversations here about this. Are teachers ready to innovate using technology? A couple things that come up from our different audiences that speak to the point that we still have more work to do here. Administrators tell us, no matter whether we ask them about mobile devices, digital content, different classroom models, it doesn't matter. Their number one challenge is motivating teachers to change their practice. It has been the number one for several years. We're not seeing any mitigation of that. Parents tell us that the use of technology is very important for their child's future. In fact, 87% of parents, remember we had a poll of about 30,000, told us that it was important for their child's success that technology was used effectively in school. But parents also say that technology use varies too much from teacher to teacher to really be effective in the school day. And students tell us they believe that learning how to use technology is also important for their future, particularly in terms of jobs. But they also say there are too many rules at school, particularly where their teachers are limiting the use of technology. So we asked to kind of get to the evidence on this. We asked teachers, how frequently are you assigning internet-based homework to be able to be done by your students? We're going to play another little game here. You see I have three percentages, 48, 14, 6, and then frequencies, weekly, daily, rarely. Which one do you think is the weekly of those three? 48, 14, 6, 48 weekly. Well, let's take a look at what the actual data looks like, folks. Again, you're going to be surprised. 48 is the rarely. Rarely. 14% of teachers tell us they're assigning it weekly. 6% say they're assigning internet-based homework daily. It jumps a little bit for high school. It jumps all the way up to 9% of high school teachers. We also asked principals, how often do you think that your teachers are assigning digitally based or internet-dependent homework? The principal's perception is much higher. They do think it's more along a weekly assignment, and so they don't necessarily have a good picture on that. We took this one step further because this is what we do at Project Tomorrow. We asked students, how often are you using the internet to help you with homework? Not how often are your teachers assigning it, how often are you using it? It's a total flip. 48% of high school students tell us that they're doing it daily. 76% say it is at least weekly. So where are the students going? Well, they're accessing it at home. They're also coming to school early and staying in school late to access the internet. Unfortunately, I have to report to you that 28% are doing their homework in fast food restaurants. 20% are telling us that they're going to public libraries. Students are looking at the internet as the oxygen in their learning process. And they are very resourceful. Whether they have access at home or not, they are very resourceful to be able to get that sort of access. Now, we also asked questions about social media. Lots of thoughts and concerns about social media in school. A couple sort of interesting things here. Saw a shift. It looks like schools are lessening up some of the constraints or rules they had around social media access by their students. We also see that teachers are starting to use social media, particularly Pinterest. That has been the high point in terms of teacher using those type of tools. We also see that principals tell us that using social media to communicate with parents has been very effective. Now, we also take a look at what specific tools are being used. This may be some interesting data for you, and this is based on usage where the respondents told us it was often or all the time, so highly regular usage. We see a disconnect there, particularly on Facebook. You know, the high point for Facebook for our students was 2007, at the point when mom and dad, my teacher, and God forbid grandma got on Facebook. That was the point when they moved off. Their high interest is obviously in Instagram and Snapchat right now, but that changes year to year. We do extensive research on this and again have the largest collection of data on this, but spend a lot of time talking to kids specifically about how they're using different types of social media. We also took a look at how students are using social media, not just for entertainment, but also for their own learning practices. So we see that students actually want to explore careers using social media. That they also say it's a must-have in their school, particularly around collaboration. Students love the idea of learning that is socially based, untethered, and digitally rich, and so the social media helps support that. One of the other things that's interesting around social media is this idea of the communications with parents, and that's our last trend that I'm leaving you with today. So we asked parents of school-age children, how do you want to hear from your child's teacher, from your child's school? What type of methodologies are the best in terms of communications? So we see here what parents are saying. Personal emails are good, much better than a face-to-face meeting or even a phone call. The ones we see rising are text message, obviously, and also the idea of a mobile app. Those are the ones that are more on the leading edge. We again like to look at the disconnects where folks are not on the same page. So again, we went out and we asked principals, what do you think is the most effective way for your school's teachers to communicate with parents? What we find is that in many ways, our school principals are not up to date in what the expectations are for parents. So school principals are still thinking parents have the opportunity or would like to come in for a face-to-face meeting or receive a personal phone call. So we have a little bit of work to do to educate our principal school site leadership community about the expectations of parents. What parents tell us that they want in terms of communication from their child's teacher or school or district is they want convenience. And just like all of us, they want push rather than search. Don't want to have to go to the website to find out when the football game is or when my child's test is or when that project that I know he's not working on is due. They want that push to them. They want it highly personalized. They also want a realization from their child's school that they are busy people and that some of the structure associated with communications needs to be around the idea that they have busy and high impact, high ROI expectations. So what we did is that we looked at addressing, with some evidence from the Speak Up data, 7 key trends. There is a lot more of this available, folks. On Monday of this week, here at this conference, we released a top 10 list of things everyone should know specifically about today's students. Many of these were on there, but there's also some other things on there that are really interesting for you as well. You can find that on our website at tomorrow.org. I also am happy to provide you either with my contact information or other contact information if you'd like to get that pushed to you, because maybe you want that type of a technology as well. In addition to these trends, here's some of the other trends that we're watching that I thought might be interesting for you to take a look at. And we spend a lot of time looking not just at what people are doing, what students, teachers, parents, and administrators tell us they're doing with technology, but also, what their aspirations are and what their attitudes are around technology. There's an awful lot of research out there that counts what people do. We, in our sophisticated approach and methodology, triangulate activities, aspirations, and attitudes to get the full picture, not only of where we are today as a snapshot, but what those trend lines look like going out. So some of the things that we're looking at is a greater emphasis within our schools on students developing the types of global skills they need for the workforce and tying that to the use of technology. So remember, our 3rd grade girl said that the use of technology helped her develop critical thinking skills. We actually see students are very articulate not only about the types of skills they believe they need for the future to be successful in the workforce, but also how technology helps them get there. We also are looking at the rise of personalized learning, a lot of that through the different classroom models that are in place and greater acceptance around those. This increased need for connectivity, both at school and at home, and how different districts are addressing that connectivity is critically important. You know, for today's students, learning is a 24/7 enterprise. School is just one small piece of it. Greater recognition of what students are doing outside of school to self-direct their learning can really help fuel new initiatives within school. So if we pay attention to what students are doing, what their aspirations are, where they're being successful, it actually is a wonderful predictor of where we want schools to evolve into. I mentioned before the new expectations of parents. We actually see in the community today of parents what we call the new digital parent. In many cases, they are a younger parent, elementary students. They have grown up with this technology. They went to college with this technology. They have much higher expectations. That's putting new demands on schools and districts. And then this final one is one that we're spending a lot of attention on. This universal desire to get beyond even just talking about engagement or talking about it's nice to have technology in the classroom because it prepares students for the future, and really start honing in on real outcomes associated with the use of technology. We also do evaluation work for companies as well as for school districts, looking at some of those real outcomes. So much more information on our website at tomorrow.org. I mentioned that top 10 list. In addition to that, this presentation will be up there as well if you would like to download that. We do make a lot of our data available. We are a nonprofit. We believe it's important to get this data out, not only to impact schools and districts and policymakers, but also companies that are looking to have an impact in this marketplace. Thank you so much for joining me today.